Hi everyone, my name's Tess, and this is a video brought to you by the Learning Exchange, which is going to be a short overview of podcast making. You can make a podcast anywhere in your house, even in your kitchen. I've made a few other videos as well on more specific podcast-related topics, such as planning a podcast, how to do an interview with a person in a podcast, recording and editing a podcast in Anchor, and making a cover image in Canva. Feel free to check out some of those videos if those topics interest you. Okay, so what is a podcast? Well, it's an audio file that's made available online for people to listen to. They're usually made as a series of episodes, meaning that there's more than one that cover similar themes, topics, use the same hosts, or similar presentation styles. But it's really a very open definition, meaning there's no one way to make a podcast. There are several different types of podcasts. People do educational podcasts, they tell stories, they do interviews, they do reviews, and they mix multiple types together. Some questions to consider when you're making a podcast are, what is your podcast going to be about, and what will it be called? Why are you making a podcast? Who is your podcast for? Why should they listen? Once you've answered the why and what, here are some technical things to consider. How long will your podcast be? How often will you release an episode? What will the scripts look like? Will you use music? And if so, what music will you use? There are no wrong answers to these questions, so they should really be used as guides to help you understand what podcast you want to make. Now let's talk about some of the most common forms of podcasts. There's the solo podcast, which is where only one person is speaking. This person is called the host, and they're the listener's guide through the content that is featured in the episode. The co-host podcast is when two or more people are hosting the podcast and discussing and presenting the content together. The interview is similar to the co-host format, but in this only one person is the host and the other person is the content. I talk in depth about interviewing techniques in another video, so check that out if you're interested. Scripted fiction or nonfiction are storytelling style podcasts such as the true crime or fantasy genres. Reviews are opinion pieces on specific items or topics such as music or movies. And lastly, educational podcasts focus on teaching something new to the audience, such as the details of a historical event. It's important to note that podcasts can be, and often are, mixes of multiple styles. Now let's talk about the equipment involved in podcast making. Podcasts are actually very simple to make. All you need is something to record your audio, such as a cell phone or an external microphone, some storage space on your phone or laptop to hold the audio you record, and an editing program. I have another video where I talk about recording and editing a podcast in Anchor, which you can check out if you're interested. Once your podcast is recorded and edited, you'll need to publish and promote your podcast. At this step, you'll need a short description and a cover photo to accompany it in the places that you promote it. The goal of the description and the cover photo is to draw people's attention to your work and activate their curiosity enough for them to check out your podcast. That's it for this video, guys. This has been an overview of podcast making. Check out some of my other videos on more specific details of making a podcast, also brought to you by the Learning Exchange. And happy podcasting, everybody. Before we go, I'd like to thank our funders who made this video possible.